guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am here with my October plan with me, which I always look forward to every year because it is the one month that I really kind of go crazy with things like doodles. And you guys probably know me going crazy with doodles is less than what some people might consider going crazy, but I have fun with it. And on top of that, I'm still going to do my doodles, but I also have some changes in the works. So if you guys have been on my Instagram lately, you will kind of know what I'm talking about, but I will let you guys in a little bit more on what's going on once I actually talk about how I'm going to set up October. So first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a look at how August went. No, not August, September. I'm like, don't even know what month it is. So in here, so I am currently in my new bullet journal. Let's go ahead and center. I'm currently in my new bullet journal, so you guys have seen all of this setup. I'm just going to do a quick little flip through. Basically, September is back to school for me. That's when classes start and all of that kind of fun stuff. You guys will know also that I was essentially sick for like half of August and the first bit of September, so that has been really fun. Finally, my voice is back though, so that is fantastic. So yeah, that's been kind of September. So in here I have my little back to school September intro page. And I have my calendar, upcoming month, and goals. I have worked on a bunch of things in goals, but I haven't actually gotten certain things checked off. It's currently the 22nd, and so I do still have about, 8 days left in the month, so hopefully I can make some headway on some of these. But if not, I will just end up migrating them or deciding if I actually still need to do them. Reading has actually gone really well this month. I'm somewhere in the realm of like 10 books read, and I've got a couple that I'm currently working on, so I think that I'll probably finish one or two more maybe by the end of the month, so that has been going well. Honestly, part of during the school year when I was feeling really overwhelmed, I couldn't really take a long enough break to like sit down and watch TV or anything like that, but I would take time to read while I was eating meals and that kind of stuff, and that is how I was able to get through a lot of books this month. So a number of these are audiobooks and some of them are ebooks. Then I have my tracking, so you'll see I've got part of today, and I actually need to fill in that I did post on Instagram today. I've got most of this filled in, and I also have my graph. So I decided that for my graph, I wanted to figure out a way to actually take this data and learn something about it. So I marked a line at 10,000 steps because that's kind of the accepted number of steps. That means you're, not sitting on your butt too much. And I am going to check at the end of the month how many days out of the entire month I had at least 10,000 or more than 10,000 steps. And you guys can see I have had 3 days so far that I didn't hit 10,000, which I would say is pretty darn good for me. And I've also got this section up here where I'm going to mark in the day with the highest number of steps, so how many steps did I get that day, the day with the lowest number of steps to kind of see what my lower end is, and what my average steps were for the day. So I have to wait and fill this out once I actually get to the end of the month, but I think that that will be a good way to help me start making use of this data that I have been collecting. I also have my skincare routine, so this has been going well. I definitely am much more consistent in the morning than I am in the evening. I think part of it is I'm a morning person, so I just like to have my morning routine, whereas a lot of times in the evening, if I get working on something and I'm like, oh no, I have to go to bed, one of the first things that I tend to not do in its entirety is my skincare routine. I have been pretty good about actually like washing my face in the evening, or at least taking off my makeup, but I haven't been doing the entire full routine. So this is actually going to get changed up a little bit in my October setup. Keep forgetting what month I'm gonna be in. Then we get into daily, weekly, hybrid. This has been going along pretty swimmingly. I have once again, I'm not using this, or at least at the end of August, beginning of September, I wasn't using this for anything, and so I was just feeling really overwhelmed, so I had a little like positive message for myself. But overall, the setup is the same, so I've got my days of the week here, my tasks, my main objectives for the week, and you will notice that I honestly have not been completing all of them. I've been procrastinating on a couple of really important tasks. I need to call and make doctor's appointments. Oops. I have my upcoming week, and then this box that used to be for my language, like my weekly language tracker, is now things that I need to get done for work. So otherwise, these weeks pretty much are going along kind of as they are. Now, I do have my teacher bullet journal and I do keep track of a lot of task lists in there, but it's more detailed. This is just kind of like the general, have I planned these classes that are coming up? Yes or no? And then in my teacher bullet journal, I have what classes they actually are. And then I also have any kind of specific things that come up that I've noticed I've had on my to-do list for a while that I just really need to get done. I'll put them in here as kind of like a mental reminder. And then I do have more information in my bullet journal if I need, in my teacher bullet journal if I need it. But I just find this helpful just as kind of like a tickler method to remind me about some of the things that I need to do for work, because I don't tend to have my teacher bullet journal out at home unless I'm specifically working on planning lessons, if that makes sense. So this week I have a little sticky note of things I have to cook. Let's move that. But otherwise, the week is going along pretty much as is. You guys can see that on Friday, so Friday was the day that I really dove into my whole changing things up kind of thing, which I will explain in a minute. So I had a couple of things that I wanted to note down from the day, and I have a bunch of tasks and stuff that I want to work on getting through this weekend, but that is for this week. Then I also have set up next week, and in light of the changes I want to make, I'm mildly regretting this, but at the same time, I'm just going to leave it for this week because this setup has been working, so I'm just going to let myself use it for this week and then, you know, start fresh from then on. I have to say I love this particular look, this like yellow combination with the Apache Sunset ink and then these particular stickers. I absolutely love the look of that. So you'll see that I haven't started migrating. I've got a couple of my events that I know for sure that I have to do, but I'll work on doing more. I'll work on migrating things in at the end of the week, so probably Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Then I have my big changes. So let me go ahead and talk about this a little bit. So if you guys have seen on my Instagram at all, I actually received a proof copy of the bullet journal method, and you guys can see I have tags and sticky notes, and I've made notes and everything. So one of the things that I decided to do as I was reading is I really just, it's been inspiring me to essentially revamp my system to try and make it work even more, because I've kind of gotten back to the point where I'm using this as a planner. It helps me be more productive and more efficient and everything, but I don't think it's doing all that it could do for me, and part of it is because I am just comfortable with a planner. I'm an organizer at heart, so like I'm comfortable with this setup. And so I really want to try and push myself because I have a couple of big projects that I really want to work on in, you know, the coming months and in the next year and, you know, on. And so I want to take the time to really think about my system, think about how I'm using it, take the advice that Ryder has in the book on like the philosophy behind it, and just kind of try and make everything, kind of take everything and make it work together to basically step up my bullet journaling practice. So what I have is a page of notes from the book, and I read a ton, but I almost never take notes from the book. I will sometimes like make notes if it's like a reference book or whatever, but I usually don't just take notes sort of longhand like this. I have done things with, for example, like the KonMari method, but I really synthesized the notes and like made them prettier and all of that. It's really hard for me to do things like this in my bullet journal. And like, this is one of the reasons why you have a bullet journal, is so that you can put this kind of stuff in there. So this was my first kind of stand that I'm really going to try and make some changes in here. I mean, I did, you know, I did cursive for the title, but after that, this is just my normal handwriting. I even have some like words that I started misspelling and I didn't even bother to wipe them out. So I have this in here, and then one of the next things that I did actually today, this morning, is a thought exercise that Ryder has in the book. That's the 2 lives. And I'm not gonna leave this on here too long, but basically you imagine the well-worn path. So what would your life look like at the end of it if you didn't change anything, if you just kind of like kept going as you were? And what would it look like if you actually took risks and, you know, like chased after your dreams essentially? Then you have the post-mortem. So you write a letter to yourself, kind of talking about which life would you prefer, what can you do about it, what are the things that you noticed in writing these 2 exercises, and then what are some of those goals that you realized that you had written down. And so for example, I chose the the path less traveled. And honestly, this left page was really hard for me to do because just having been bullet journaling for over 2.5 years, I feel like I have made a lot of these changes and I have taken some risks. So even if my life were like as it is right now, I think that, you know, there are projects I have in mind and all that. So it was kind of a hard thing to write, but I ended up going through and pulling out a lot of the goals that I want to have, and this is going to form part of my new setup that I want to work on, and I'm not going to go any more into that right now. I'm actually going to do a video once I finish reading the book, kind of giving you guys my thoughts on how I'm actually going to change my system. But it does mean that for October, I do have a couple of changes. So let's take a look in my pre-planning. So I have paper and sticky notes and what have you. All right, so October, I have chosen a couple of colors for this month. So I am planning to use these two fountain pens. I have Copper Noir in my Metropolitan, and I have Apache Sunset in my Lamy. I also have pulled out essentially all of my black and gray small brush pens, including my Tombow Twin Tone, because I have the 0.3, what are they called? The 0.3 felt tip on this side. I have my Staedtler, my gray Staedtler as well, plus I have, whoops, pencil, eraser, whiteout, and my ruler just in case. I also, as part of my October thing, I love Halloween related quotes. So I actually went on Goodreads and I picked out a bunch of them, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. So you'll see I have numbers over here, so you guys are going to see how I set that up. So I just have a bunch of different Halloween kind of related October quotes. So I will need that for later. And then I have my setup. So I am a creature of habit, even when I do doodles, and I love cobwebs for Halloween. So I'm going to be doing kind of a cobweb theme because one, I just like the look of them, and two, it's one of those things that are like naturally sort of translucent and gray, so it just goes with my color scheme. But I am going to introduce kind of this, you know, more like rust brown and orange, just to add a little bit of color. As far as my actual setup, I'm going to have quotes in my intro page. I'm going to keep my calendar and my goals. I'm going to do reading, tracking, and my skincare. I am, however, going to change up a little bit of my setup, especially on my monthly, and my tracking is going to be a little bit reduced. So in terms of tracking and stuff, I'm only going to have 4 things that I'm going to track. And I'm also going to have my graphs still, so I'm actually taking steps off of my tracker and I'm just going to use the graph. I also want to use sort of a symbol system to represent things like things that I used to have on my tracker. So like, did I stretch that day? Did I exercise? Did I go to my bar class? So I'm just going to incorporate all of the things that have to do with moving onto the graph and just take them out of the tracker so that I have them all in one place. Then I have my skincare routine, and I am going to simplify some of the bits that are on the tracker. The routine itself is actually going to stay the same, but I'm going to simplify a little bit what I actually put on the tracker, which you guys will see. I also am planning to set up a weekly because I am completely revamping my weekly daily setup in October. So I thought I would go ahead and show you guys what I'm going to do for that. So without further ado, I am going to time-lapse you guys, and I will come back at the end and I will show you all of the changes and kind of walk you through what I'm planning on doing for October. So I have also just really quickly done some sticky notes on here. I took my bullet journal out of my notebook cover just to make it easier to write on, and before we even started, I've managed to get a giant fountain pen stain on my page. But that's okay, we're gonna run with it. All right, so that is my October setup. I think in a lot of ways it looks actually different for once than normal. So let's take a look through it page by page. So I found so many quotes that I liked for October that I decided I just wanted to do a page of quotes. So I ended up using both of my fountain pens. I have my Metropolitan with the Copper Noir, which I believe is a Montverde ink. I'll have to double check that and put in the description box. And I have my Lamy with Apache Sunset because they just really remind me of fall. Now, I actually had planned to use these colors throughout the month, and you'll notice that that did not happen at all. But you know what? It's fine. It changes as I go along. So I have my intro page, October 2018, and once again, I did a cobweb. Every single year it comes out a little differently, but every single year I just love doing a cobweb for my intro page. Also, I just really like how the calligraphy came out on this one. I think it looks kind of fun. And you'll notice my theme of having a tiny little spider on the tail. And before anyone mentions, I know that they have 8 legs, but they look too squished when I try and fit 8 legs into the tiny little guy, so I just have 6. I know that's not accurate, but he's like a kawaii spider. So next up, also this last one, I just wanted one more line, and so I didn't actually give the attribution. It is Shakespeare, but I just needed to have this extra line here, and so I just added that in at the last second. Anyway, this definitely looks different, so I have decided to test out the traditional bullet journal log this month. Part of this is because I just need something that is visually very different from what I usually do to remind me that I'm trying to readjust my system. I just need that visual reminder. So we'll see how it works. I am very much a calendar person, but I'm gonna give it a shot. So I have done splits for the weeks just to make sure that I know where those fall, and I did still include my upcoming month because I find that really helpful even when I have certain things that go onto my Calendex, for example. It's nice for me to see what's upcoming, whereas when I go to my Calendex, that's when I'm gonna move everything over, but this is just a little reminder of any big things that I wanna do or anything that maybe I'm thinking I might put on a task for October and realize I'm not gonna have time, and so I just straight ahead put it on for November. So I've left it in there and I've split it in half so that I have 2 tiny little columns to do for November. Then I am keeping essentially my same setup as before with the objectives for the month, or the goals for the month, except that I'm just renaming it tasks. I think I might even redo how the actual layout is, but this is going to be one of those things that as I'm migrating into October at the end of September, I'm going to really look at some of the changes I would like to implement, and yeah, so that is why I set this up like this. I also did just a tiny little cobweb up here. The rest of the spreads, I might do the spider, I've done the spider, but I haven't really done any other cobwebs because I just wanted to keep them really minimal and functional, but having this line delineating here made it really easy for me to just add that cobweb in this section. So then I have my reading goals. So still with the simplified, my goal is to read 6 books. And the question is, did I actually read 6 books? Yes, I did. And how many did I read? Or no, I didn't. And how many did I read? And then just a running list. Pretty straightforward. I have my tracking. So as I mentioned, I'm only doing 4 things. I'm only tracking 4 things. So one of the things that I really want to do is implement a morning and an evening reflection in terms of my bullet journal. So I've added that in my tracker for this month to try and remind me to make it a habit. I also have I taken my medication? This is one of those things, I take it every single day, but I just like to have that reminder, if for some reason I miss it, it's on here, and so I know that I haven't forgotten to take it. And then if I do my some lines a day, again, I do that every day, but I just like to have that little tickler reminder to remind me to do it. Other than that, I have my grid. So I have done one change to this grid. Instead of starting from 0, I've started at 2,000 because I realized last month that I don't think I had anything lower than 5,000. So, but I did have some that were above 16. So since I tend to be right around here, I just decided to knock off that that bottom, 0 to 1,000 and just start at 2, so I could go up to 16,000 very easily. And I have more space because I have fewer things that I'm tracking this month, but we'll see how it works. I also have added a little key. So I've got steps, exercise, so a dot for steps, an E for exercise, S for stretch, and B for bar. The steps I'm going to keep doing the graph, but the E, the exercise, stretch, and bar, I'm gonna put them somewhere on the line. I'm not really sure where, but just to kind of see how they space out throughout the month. So my main pens that I used for this month for all these spreads were this Tombow Fudnosuke, so I have the soft tip, so I did that for all of my lettering up top. I have my Tombow Twin Tone in gray that I've used both the bullet side and the fine liner side, and I ended up pulling out my Everyday Writer, which is the 03 Hybrid Technica, to do basically the days of the week on my tracker and stuff. So what I think I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use my gray twin tone to fill in the tracker, because I'm trying to, in addition to trying different things and revamping the system, I was kind of getting annoyed that I had to keep changing pens last month, and I had certain things that I wanted to color code, but now I'm going to try and just sort of simplify it so that I can essentially just use these two pens on a day-to-day basis and then do other pens if I need them. So the next page I have is my skincare. So I just have skincare, I have my tracking page and my key, and I've also decided to do a monthly review and just did a little do no harm at the end, because that's like the basic tenet of skincare according to YouTube girl that I follow, which is Leah Yu. So I have my key for the various things. Now I did previously have them with like what number they actually went to, and I might go back and add that in, but for right now I kind of know what's what. And you'll notice that I had planned other ones, and I realized as I was writing out what they were that they were things that I had put in as like, if I ever get this thing, but I don't have it, so I don't need to have it on my key, like it's not a thing that I use. So that simplified my key a little bit. I also decided I did like having the color difference between morning and evening, but instead of going crazy, I basically just said morning was going to be gray and evening was going to be black. And that way it's straightforward. I just have to have these two pens for everything. I also cut out a couple of the other things so that I had a longer notes section. I don't write a lot in the notes, but it's nice to have that space, and I was realizing that I was having to like make 2 lines out of 1 in order to fit everything, so I just gave it more space here. Then the monthly review, this is actually going to be where I track through the month and see, for example, how often did I do this AHA peel? And then I'll write it in here. How often did I use this serum? And see actually, as I have tracked through the month, see how much I'm using certain things so that I can see like, is there something that I'm not really using that whenever I run out of it means that I don't need to buy it again? Or is there something that I'm using a lot? Or is there something I'd like to start using more? So just to kind of give me an idea, taking the information from the tracker and kind of analyzing it a little bit. Nothing super fancy, but just a little bit of an analysis. So I've given myself this big box, and I'll figure out at the end of the month how I'm actually going to lay it out and everything, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, is just to see how often I'm using certain things and see how that changes what I plan to do for the following month. The last thing I have, so these are all of my October spreads. The last thing that I have is my new weekly. So this looks super different. I am going back to a 1-page weekly and dailies. So what I have decided, and this isn't even what my old 1-page weekly looks like, this has been, once again, a little bit revamped. You'll see I used my ruler here, and the ink hadn't quite dried, so it looks a little feathery, but you know what, it's fine. So I just have 5 squares tall by, what, like 2, 4, 6, by 7 squares wide, and I just have the day and the date. So Monday the 1st, Tuesday the 2nd, and so on. And I have that through the end of the month, and I'm actually gonna go ahead straight away and just close out. So I want to have these be a little bit more closed in. And you'll notice that with a lot of the lines, like now I'm just not even gonna use a ruler, because let's face it, I don't like to use a ruler on a day-to-day basis. So this is just gonna kind of make it easier. So this just gives me an overview of what things are going to do. I'm going to not put any tasks in here anymore. I've also gone back to the Alistair method task list. So I have J for work, S for social media, so sunshine and stationery, and P for personal. I don't think I need anything else for right now, but this will allow me to kind of organize. But I'm just going to do a running list of things, and yeah, I'm gonna see how it goes. So the idea is, okay, last thing before I go off onto my little tangent, last thing is I do have the upcoming week, because that is something that I don't use it all the time, but it is nice to remind me, especially if I have time sensitive things, that it's coming up soon. At some point I might stop doing this, but at least for now I do like to have it. So what I'm thinking with this new system is, after I finish reading the bullet journal method, and I'm gonna do a whole video on that, but what I wanna do is take some time, look at what my general overall goals are, just for life. Then I want to break them down into my 4-year overview, which is something that I have in my collection bullet journal. Then I want to further break those down, focus on the specific year that I'm on, and break those down into quarterly goals. And then each month, pick a couple that I'm going to work on, but of course I'm going to have tasks that come up as I'm doing stuff, so that's why I still have a task list here. But essentially use my monthly as what are my monthly goals. So based on my quarterly goals, what do I hope to accomplish this month? What are things that come up as I'm going? And then take these goals and say, all right, this week, what do I want to focus on? And try really hard to just be more intentional, be more mindful of the kinds of things I'm putting on my weeklies and in my dailies, because the reason I want to go back to dailies is I want to try and actually rapid log. So this might actually mean that I change my system. That's one of the reasons why I want to have a very simplified color scheme for this month, because essentially what I want to do is go back to taking my bullet journal everywhere with me. I used to do that, and I used to add things in, and then it got to the point where I wasn't using my bullet journal in that way, and so it was just easier for me to leave it at home and not take it to work, for example. And I want to try and bring it. Now, a lot of times at work, I really don't need it, just because things that are work specific, I put in my work bullet journal. But for example, I've been taking around my little A6 bullet journal and putting notes in there and then trying to figure out where to deal with them. And I want to try and maybe avoid doing that. I don't know. We're going to see how this works. But to actually add in notes, something that I don't do very often, and really just try to get a handle on rapid logging in a way that I haven't been using it. So that's one of the reasons why I want to be super, super minimal. We're gonna see how this goes. I'm not done with the book, so I'm gonna keep reading, but at least for a start, this is how I'm going to make changes for October, and then I'm going to adapt and see how things go from there. So this is gonna be a long video, guys. I know it is, and I hope you guys enjoy seeing this peek into my scatterbrain brain, because I'm in the middle of trying to implement this stuff and trying to set up the next month, and I'm not completely set with it. So who knows, in November I might change things completely again. We shall see, but I will definitely keep you guys updated. In the meantime, that is all that I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this plan with me. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up and/or subscribing to my channel. And I will see you guys in my next video. Hope you guys have an awesome October, and happy planning. Bye.